Hello.
Nah.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was on.
Yeah, it's on.
I was
It's
going to
on
say,
and recording now.
is it on?
Yes, it is recording. It's definitely on. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah, it's got red light on.
Because last time, I thought it was recording, but it wasn't.
Oh, that was the mystery podcast number 3.
Yeah. So, hello, welcome to the Mr. Grey Film Show. I'm your host, Alex Gray. This is episode 3. We already did an episode 3, but it's not available because we talked for 45 minutes about The Martian, and then realised that it wasn't recording properly, so we'd lost everything. So then we came back and tried again, and then I thought we'd talk about the second film first, which was Turbo Kid, and then we ended up talking about The Martian first again. So having just talked about The Martian for about 45 minutes, we then went back into The Martian to talk about it again, go over everything. Well, we did about another 20 minutes, and it wasn't so great because it was really low energy and it was irritating. And then after all that, we then tried to talk about Turbo Kid, which we did alright at, but wasn't great. And then when I came to edit it, for some reason the last 15 minutes were complete blank sound. So,
Wow.
it's a fucking nightmare. So yeah, completely ballsed up episode 3, and it's dead and no one will ever hear it. So sorry, here's another episode 3 with different films altogether.
Yeah, and different guest because I wasn't there for this.
Oh no,
glorious
that
thing.
wasn't with Pete. That was with Mr. Tom Taylor. He was in episode 2, and episode 3, take 1. But he's not here for episode 3, take 2, which is this. This is episode 3. Welcome.
Yay!
I'm here with Mr. Peter Cox, who runs the LostHighwayHotel.com film blog thing,
That's
which is very
me.
good, and you should go check it out. Hi Pete, how are you?
I'm as mildly hungover as yourself, I think.
Pretty fucking hungover right now, Pete. Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm feeling okay. An hour ago I was feeling awful,
Same.
and then I had some chicken and chips.
There you go.
And now I feel better. A lot of Coke. A lot of Coke has helped. Coca-Cola.
Yes,
Should
that
yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably should be specified.
Yeah. So, this week, well, this time, this doesn't happen on a weekly basis, but this episode, we will be discussing the films San Andreas, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and
Does
Lobster.
Does he include The Rock anymore?
Oh,
I
he
think
absolutely does.
He's been off, hasn't
He's
he?
been a film star now for much longer than he was a professional wrestler, surely.
So when I made the terrible mistake this afternoon of watching Doom, he was credited on that purely as The Rock. So that
Was
must
he?
have been fairly early on.
Yeah, that was one of his very
genesis.
early
God,
films.
it's awful.
I saw
don't watch
about 10 minutes of a film called The Tooth Fairy today, which starred The Rock. His early work is...
I thought that was only a couple of years ago.
The Tooth Fairy, I don't know,
That
he
was-
still had hair, so...
Was it his?
It looked like his. It was very dark. I think he dyed it, despite it being, I don't know, about 1 millimeter thick. It was it was so intense. It was like someone had painted hair on him.
It does sound like spray on hair. I've not seen that film. I remember seeing the posters of it and going,
Yeah.
I think I'll watch anything else.
Well, now I did happen to know what the premise of the Tooth Fairy is. But if you were to suddenly flip on the channel and then not pay attention to what the title of the thing you were watching was, you would see, oh, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is in a movie where he plays an ice skater. Not an ice skater, a hockey player. Ice hockey.
Well, yeah.
So
okay.
there he is, and he's being a bit rubbish at ice hockey, and nobody seems to expect much of him. And then he suddenly does really well at ice hockey, and then he does really badly all of a sudden, and he gets told off by the coach. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a movie about ice hockey. And then he goes home. Oh, wait, and then he goes to see his girlfriend, and he's mean to his girlfriend and his girlfriend's kids. And then he's feeling like shit. And then Stephen Merchant turns up at his house and comes in. They start having a strange conversation. And you don't quite know what's going on. And then Stephen Merchant starts talking about the Tooth Fairy. You're like, what's this? And then Stephen Merchant disappears. He vanishes.
Gosh.
You're like, what? What's going on? And then it goes back to being an ice skating movie. And then he's doing much better at hockey than he was before. And then all of a sudden, Stephen Merchant appears and starts tapping at his watch that isn't there. And he goes, oh, okay, I have to be off now. So he suddenly sprouts wings. And then his outfit magically changes into something between shiny tights and pajama top that's all very velveteen. And then he skates around the ice rink because he can't fly, even though he's got wings.
Wings, though.
Yeah, and he's like, but you can't fly. He goes, now's a good time to learn. So he skates around the ice rink, takes off, and then goes through a portal.
Flip.
And you just think, Jesus, what the fuck am I watching? What is this?
You've sold it to me almost. I'm going to have to check this out on a terrible, regretful day.
Strange thing, yeah. Oh, and then Stephen Merchant comes in with an amnesia gun and gives everyone in the ice rink
that thing from Men in Black.
Yeah, except it's much more fairy dusty looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
This sounds like nonsense.
Oh, it certainly is. Yeah.
Speaking of which...
Yes, speaking of which, the actual film that we are here to discuss is San Andreas.
Yes, out to own, download, buy, collect, and put where you want it. It was in cinemas some months ago, but now it's appeared on cardboard stands everywhere, so I guess it's something we can legitimately talk about now as relevant.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of relevant. It's filmed, so now you can go see it if you want. I would recommend that you do. It's entertaining. Yeah, so anyway, San Andreas stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as...
Ray. He's called Ray.
He's called Ray. Is he?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. He's Ray the helicopter pilot rescue man.
Yeah, always good at that.
Yeah.
Even if it's putting everyone else in the helicopter at extreme risk, like in the opening bit that introduces him.
Yeah.
Being interviewed so that he can explain who he is. That's handy. Because it opens with a girl sort of driving a car, listening to Taylor Swift, and for some reason, I think there's an avalanche. This is on one of the sort of twisty road around LA.
Is it?
And there's a rock fall, not an avalanche. That's a bit much. A rock slide,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Oh shit, I can't drive in this."
Oh yeah, because she's texting on her phone and she's doing loads of dangerous driving shit, and she has loads of near misses.
Yeah.
And you think, she's going to go off the cliff at any moment, but she doesn't.
But then she does.
And then she does. There's a rock slide.
And gets stuck in a weird place that means he has to fly his helicopter in and go sideways, which apparently is called hat tipping.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's...
I'm not sure that's necessary.
Do they call that in the trade? I don't know.
Couldn't they just send the guy down on a longer bit of rope?
Anyway, it looks ill-advised, to say the least. but they catch her, so that's nice for her.
Yeah, and he's the the hero of it all. Yeah, I've got here, tip the hat. Film is immediately unrealistic at the 6-minute mark.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
This is everything I normally try to avoid in Hollywood cinema. Yeah. There's been a number of big blockbusters this year that have been awful beyond the necessary amount of awful. Don't get me started on Terminator Genesis, because I will fill up this entire show with how bad that film is.
No, we'll do that when that's on DVD as well.
That what, tomorrow?
Oh, is it? Oh, brilliant. Okay, that'll be the next one.
You can't move in HMV. I was in there today for a massive... They've turned the entire cache area into this sort of cardboard future bollocks. Which is an apt description.
Will future bollocks be made of cardboard?
If I had my way, that would be the quote on the front of the box. Yeah. Cardboard future bollocks, 1 star. Anyway.
We're not talking about that yet.
No, we're not. But my point was, there's been a few big budget dumb films this year that could have been fun and haven't been. But San Andreas
was fun.
It is fun. It's going to be my guilty pleasure of the year. Don't get me wrong, it's total garbage. Yeah. But really appealing at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely knows it's stupid and it goes with it. And
yeah, from its big sort of chunky 3D impact font like credits, where you also find out it's been written by Colton Hughes, who co-wrote big chunks of Lost.
Yeah.
With Damon Lindelof, who normally gets the blame for everything that he writes. But he's a hired hand here. I think the story credits are to two other people whose names I've written down but can't be bothered to say. Sorry, you guys, Burn. It's about big earthquake.
It's about big earthquake, and then everything falls down,
Yeah.
and then everything gets wet, and the rock runs around the whole time, or flies a helicopter, or a plane, or drives a car. He's always moving.
He is always in motion in this film.
Yeah, it green screen motion, so he's actually sat still.
Yeah. There's one scene of him standing still, which is when he opens up some divorce papers and looks sad.
Yeah,
that's it.
Bad.
But then by the end, the family unit has been strengthened by mass devastation. So it's fine.
He's back in with the fam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the film opens with him rescuing that person, and then you go back to his life and you go, wow, what an amazing guy. Oh, his family life's not all that great though. Oh, I feel bad for him. And then it moves over to
Paul
Giamatti and his colleague, who I shall refer to as Wei Shen, because he does the voice acting in a game called Sleeping Dogs, where he plays the main character who's called Wei Shen. And I love that game, and I've listened to that guy's voice so much. That game's like 20 hours long, and so that guy's voice was in my head so much, and as soon as I heard him, I was like, it's Wei Shen! Holy shit, I've never seen or heard him in anything else, but now he's in this, yay! And then he dies.
Really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you knew him, as soon as you saw him, you thought, you're not going to make it.
But I thought he'd last a bit longer than he does.
Yeah.
Basically, the setup for the whole earthquake disaster thing is that Paul Giamatti, whose character is called Lawrence, not even Doctor,
just Lawrence,
just comes up as Lawrence.
Nice.
He's on the verge or the cusp of developing something that will predict earthquakes, and they're at the Hoover Dam trying to do that. And lo and behold, quite coincidentally, whilst on the Hoover Dam, there's a big earthquake because there's a secret fault line underneath the Hoover Dam that no one knew was there, lying there weirdly, and it takes down the dam, and Wei Shen
rescues a little girl and gets her to safety, but unfortunately doesn't make it.
And he's wearing a red shirt at the time, which I found quite funny. I don't know if that was intentional in this movie or not. I'd like to think it had a level of self-awareness that it killed off one of the main minority characters wearing a red shirt within a quarter of an hour. So Paul Giamatti gets all panicky and gets all his gang of nameless interns around, whilst he's also being interviewed, actually. So he gets to explain who he is to an interviewer.
Yeah.
Everyone
really likes that concept.
Yeah, it's a slick economic way of figuring out who your characters are for the audience. Turns out this new fault line is going to trigger the San Andreas fault. Everything's going to be bad. And one of my favourite exchanges of dialogue all year happens where an intern says to him, who should we call? And Paul Giamatti puts on his most serious face and says, everybody. Which is, I think that's my go-to answer now when people say that. Ghostbusters, as much as I love that film, that's out the window. Someone says, who are we going to call me now? I'm going to do my serious Paul Giamatti voice and go, everybody.
Paul Giamatti is on point for this whole film. He's doing very well. He knows what he's doing. He knows this film's shite, but you've got to give it everything or you'll lose belief in it.
Yeah, he doesn't have that much, but he's fun in what he does. I especially like the bit further on where they jam, because there's some outage on network television, and they jam it so that they can broadcast a warning, and he just looks into the camera
so sincerely,
someone is threatening to kick his kittens. He's got these wet eyes, and poor Paul.
Everybody, get out of the city. you have moments to live.
Yeah, which leads to, in the city, someone saying another line, which I don't know if it is that funny, but I found it funny. With buildings collapsing everywhere, someone says, "We have to get away from these buildings." which I really liked.
Did they say it in that dull of a voice, that straightforward?
Nearly. It's this British guy called Ben.
Fucking man. Yeah, okay, right. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
at this point in the movie, it's all going along pretty formulaically, and he's got a hot daughter who's about 21, 22.
Yeah, it's Alexandra Daddario, who was in Texas Chainsaw and Series 1 of True Detective. She was all over Woody Harrelson.
Oh, is she? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've not. I immediately thought, "Oh, are you the girl from Taken?" And she's not. It doesn't look anything like her. But the character,
Maggie Grace, nothing
like her. But the character is almost exactly the same.
Yeah, she serves the same function. In fact, loads of people in San Andreas take the time to tell her how beautiful she is and are amazed by that. Frequently, like an 11-year-old British kid called Ollie.
Yeah. Okay, so you meet. Well, first of all, right? She is. I don't know. She's somewhere, and she meets her love interest of the film, which is...
It's the building that her mum's new boyfriend built.
Yeah, so they're in there, and then she meets this guy who's about to go for an interview, and he's a nervous British man. I just think, oh God, really? And then you get introduced to his little brother, who he brought on the interview with him, they're hanging out in New York together. And he's called Ollie, and as soon as you meet him, you just go, "Oh, I hope you die in a fucking earthquake. You're so annoying." Yeah. I
was trying to work out if the kid was annoying or not, because frequently they are.
He's so annoying.
Yeah, and he's also creepy. Because there's a bit later on, spoiler. There will be spoilers all the way through both of these.
Spoiler on everything. Spoiler. Yeah. We'll tell you the ending in a bit.
Where Ben and Blake, she's called, which is the American thing of having quite masculine names for your daughters. Ben and Blake kiss, and they break away, and Ollie the kid is now in shot, where previously you hadn't seen what was behind them because they were kissing. They break away, and Ollie's right there, like as close as we are, or closer, just. And then he just says, "Mum is going to love her."
Yeah.
And I'd punch that kid in the face if that was happening to me.
Yeah. Ollie needed to fucking die. He doesn't, and it's really unfortunate.
No, everyone...
You know who dies, though? Kylie Minogue dies.
Yes, Kylie Minogue is very briefly in this film. Yes. Long enough for you to go, "Oh, it's Kylie Minogue."
Yeah, and then she just flies out the side of a building that she wasn't expecting to not be there.
Yeah, it's part of this massive elaborate... It's supposed to look like a maybe it is a one-shot thing where it comes in through the side of the building, then the whole... and it goes on for ages.
The whole building is collapsing, and it's this one-shot thing. And it starts in like a helicopter.
Yeah. But it's technically
a couple minutes.
Kind of alright.
I thought it was very impressive.
But everything in that is bad.
Yeah, the camera work's impressive. All the extras work is awful.
It's hilarious. It's one of those brilliant bad movie bits where everything's happening a bit too melodramatically, and yeah, it's a fun moment because it's shit.
Yeah. By the way, there's an excellent Paul Giamatti line. I don't know if you picked it up. It was drop cover and hold on.
Yes. Because you can't say duck and cover because it sounds stupid.
And he says that directly into the camera.
Yep.
Should have mentioned that.
Yeah, he does that a bit actually. He does break the fourth wall a couple of times. The daughter Blake is in that building that the mum's boyfriend has built. The mum is in a different building which has got a rooftop cafe which all falls apart and Kylie Minogue falls out of.
Yeah.
And basically Dwayne Johnson's Ray is just whizzing around the air trying to pick everyone up and get them in the same place.
Yeah, they happen to be on the phone. Him and his ex-wife happen to be on the phone as the earthquake starts, and then he's like, "I'm coming to get you. I'll be there in a few minutes." So she has to survive through the one big tracking shot.
Yeah.
And then he just comes in and he finds her and he rescues her. But I don't know. I wouldn't say the film looks bad, but it's unrealistic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Chiefly is that there's no dust anywhere. if a building of any major size collapses, it's a fucking dust storm of concrete everywhere.
Yeah.
And all the buildings collapsed. Therefore, you would see nothing. But
well, there is something that you...
pure, complete visibility across the board.
There is something that you don't see, especially towards the end of this film, which is anyone else. I mean, there's like one bit in the middle where some extras are genuinely just shuffling in an orderly line out of town. No one's in a hurry. They're just plodding along. They look like zombies in the background. And you're given this one-off, like, throwaway line of dialogue of, like, look, everyone's going over there.
Yeah.
And then from then on, San Francisco is totally empty.
Yeah.
And there are two types of film. When it comes to disaster movies, generally there are two types of films that you get. There's the ones that try and give you lots of different characters in different elements, like 2012 or Deep Impact, and they kind of fail because their reach is too wide, so you don't really care about anyone, so it has to do all these little melodramatic bits. There's those ones, or there's the ones like The Impossible, which which I haven't seen, and from like just a couple of months ago, No Escape looks like it might be following this template, where there's just a few characters that you care about or are supposed to, and everyone else can fuck off and die. They don't matter at all.
Yeah.
And San Andreas is definitely in the latter template of here are 4 or 5 people. No one else matters.
No one else matters. No, people are dying all over the place. In fact, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's job as a helicopter rescue pilot is he should be spending his entire time in his helicopter trying to rescue as many people as possible. It's his job to rescue people who are in danger, and he spends the entire film just trying to save his family. So he's incredibly selfish in a way.
Well, yeah, but you can understand that drive. There is that bit where he
Okay, right. So minor mishap there, where the battery ran out. I think we only lost a couple minutes there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think we'll pick this up with the introduction of
Daniel
Super Dick.
Yes.
who is the film's only villain. Daniel is the mum's new boyfriend.
Yes.
And he is a very, very rich man. He's an architect of some kind,
Yes.
and he owns and builds buildings. And he's got a private plane, and at the beginning you're like, oh, he's a nice enough guy, and he's saying to Blake,
yes,
saying like, oh, I would never want to replace your dad, but I hope that we can form some kind of meaningful relationship in the coming years.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah, he's a reasonable guy. Yeah, and then the first earthquake happens, and he says to his chauffeur, he's got Blake in the car with him, and they're about to get out of the building, and he's like, drive us away, Mr. Chauffeur Man. And then the earthquake happens, and they get trapped in the basement, and Blake is trapped, and he's free to go. So he says, okay, I'm just going to go get help.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a good thing, kind of a dick move, really. He should have just tried to help her himself.
Yeah.
Then the earthquake gets worse, and he thinks, well, fuck her. I'm just going to fuck her.
Yeah, just pegs it, really.
He's an absolute arsehole.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, okay, well, he's a coward, but he's not a total arsehole. And then, about half an hour later, there's a huge dust storm headed his way due to a collapsing building in the background. And then there's somebody taking cover.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And he wrenches this guy out of the way.
I want to hold that pipe.
Yeah, he throws this man into danger, and that man then dies.
Yeah.
And then he steals his position of cover and survives the dust storm. And you just think, oh, Jesus, your character just turned completely psychotic.
Yeah, yeah.
And he really went for it. And he's Mr. Fantastic, by the way. That actor who plays Daniel is Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four from about 10 years ago. And from nothing else ever.
Not very fantastic now,
boring actor,
apparently.
Yeah.
How did he get Kylie? Because Kylie's playing his
sister, yeah.
Something or other, some connection. I
think it's his older sister, yeah. His
Something
older
like
sister is Kylie Minogue, who was also a bitch.
Yeah, but really briefly.
Yeah, she was only a bitch for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. Yeah, he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, he gets his comeuppance.
Does he? Because I can't actually remember what happened to him.
Something enormous just crushes him. It
that's fine.
Flips over. I think it's... Yeah, he gets crushed by an entire boat. But like a really big boat.
Yeah.
What is it? A cruise liner? Yeah. A cruise liner gets flipped by a tidal wave and then smashes into the boat that he's on upside down.
Can't hold a pipe to get out of the way of that.
No, you're fucked.
Daniel.
Yeah. Daniel was on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. None of it's really good, but it's just got this heightened sense of nonsense about it that's quite appealing. The music, I've written down here, the music sounds like the eagles from Lord of the Rings are going to fly in at any fucking minute.
Yeah.
It's got lots of sort of choral sort of, sort of, oh shit, everything's falling down. I don't know if this is going to sound taboo or not, but there were a lot of these movies at the end of the 90s, like Armageddon and Deep Impact, you mentioned Volcano.
Love all those films.
I kind of thought, after 9/11,
that they would stop.
That it would be quite a sensitive issue for America and Hollywood. And
you think, we have to stop destroying cities and killing thousands of people on screen now?
I just thought that they would be less flippant, that it would resonate for longer, and there was a brief respite, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we're definitely over that now.
Oh yeah, Avengers definitely killed that.
Well, yeah, every Marvel movie
and
seems to end with something crushing something massive.
I can't remember what came first, Avengers or Superman.
Oh, Man of Steel is like the zenith of it.
That's just
like so much collateral damage in that film. It's ridiculous. And this, I mean, it's riddled with cliches, but that's exactly what you're there for. It's the kind of movie that makes you want to eat loads of food. If for no other reason, there's one brilliant pun in it, which is the aforementioned parachute jump. Quite fortunately, as if he planned it, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his wife, who is played by Carla Gugino or Gugino. I'm sorry if I've said that wrong.
I'm sure she's not aware.
No.
How you pronounced her name?
They land in a baseball stadium directly at like the second base.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he says that something about
it's been a while since I got you
the second base. Brilliant. Yeah, that's worth it alone. The delivery of that is fantastic. I didn't think it ended brilliantly. There's this whole running thing throughout that is reference to a daughter that died drowning.
Yeah, I'm not sure that bit was needed.
Well,
right?
I think it was
a horrible backstory.
It was supposed to give it resonance when Blake nearly drowns.
Yeah,
and he has to resuscitate her on like the little boat that they're on at the end, which, by the way, is uncannily like a sequence in Lost, which Colton Hughes also wrote for, where Jack is relentlessly trying to resuscitate Charlie Pace after he's been strung up on his neck.
That is one of the best scenes in all of Lost. I thought that was a brilliant bit.
Well, basically, that's this
cliched
bit.
Now,
Again, because she's not been breathing forever.
Yeah.
Just keeps, like, pounding on her chest.
Yeah.
No response.
And the size of him, he would have broken all all of her ribs by now.
She would have been totally destroyed.
Yeah. She wakes up and she's fine.
Oh yeah,
because she's not got anything wrong with her.
No. Which leads to my other favourite bit of dialogue, which is the last lines of the film. Where his wife says to Dwayne, who's looking out over San Francisco Bay, where the Golden Gate Bridge has collapsed and everything's in ruins. She says, "So what now?" And sort of the camera kind of swoops in on him a bit for that hero shot, and he says, "Now we rebuild." So really, no one learned anything in this film.
No. Well, Paul Giamatti learned how to predict earthquakes.
Yeah, and I suppose he did say that it happens about once every 100 years, so they can rebuild and be fine for ages.
Yeah,
that standard Western attitude of, by the time this is a problem again, we'll be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's the film, right? So, how many watts? How many
How many collapsed buildings?
How many collapsed buildings out of 5?
My film snob sort of critic me says 1 because it is a big pile of toss. The amount I was entertained by it, regardless of that, says 4. So I'm going to split the difference and give it a 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
Ooh. I reckon I'm going to go for a 3 on this. It was, it's not quite a 4, is it? Yeah, it was pretty good. It had a really good opening,
I enjoyed
and
it a lot.
establishes its characters really quickly, economically, and the first Quake is really good. The way they show you all of that, and
It also-
that one big long shot through all the buildings is brilliant.
Terribly bad, brilliant shot.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting.
It belts along, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that it's just shy of 2 hours long, which it is.
No.
I thought it felt like a 90-minute.
Well, I think it loses it towards the end. I think the first earthquake is very exciting, and then the second earthquake less exciting because you've just seen it before. It's just a bigger version of exactly what happened before.
By the 9th one.
Yeah. Well,
there's a tsunami in there as well.
Yeah, and then the tsunami happens, and that picks it up a bit because it's a change of location. They're doing all very different, more dynamic things.
Yeah, they're driving something else.
Yeah. He charges into this tsunami going, I've got to make it in my little boat before the crest of the wave. So yeah, everything that doesn't make it over the wave by the time the wave crests, they're all fucked.
Including lots of much sturdier and quicker looking vessels than theirs.
But he manages to make it, and then there's this whole last bit. The big set piece at the end was ironically the most boring bit because you were just exhausted by that stage, and they're in a building that's sort of collapsing down into a very flooded area.
Hence Blake drowning.
So she ends up drowning but being rescued in this really cliched bit where he's hammering on her chest going, no, don't die, Blake, no.
But when she's...
While little Ollie looks on and goes, no, don't die, fuck you, Ollie. Fall off the boat and drown. All those people died and you didn't, and that's a miscarriage of justice as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. When Blake's swimming through the building, because there's some underwater swimming scenes as well, because everyone loves a bit of that. It looked strikingly like the underwater swimming bit in Alien Resurrection. Yeah. And I thought, wow, this film would be even brillianter, even more absurd, even brillianter. I'm sticking with it, even brillianter.
Why not?
Because it's San Andreas. If it now, for no reason, had aliens in. Well, that's how you end this movie. P.S. also aliens. Fuck.
Yeah. No.
2.5. Because really it's 4, but 2.5.
Yeah, I give it a 3 or 4, but I don't do half measures, so I'm going to go 3.
Okay, I do.
Yeah, you go the half points.
Yeah.
Which to me just means, you should mark it out of 10.
Well, no, because it's an 11 scale.
Of course.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Right, well, there you go.
That's that one.
So that is San Andreas.
Changing tack a little bit.
Yeah. There's the Lobster.
Yes.
Okay. So I will quickly try to sum up what the Lobster is. Okay. It stars Colin Farrell as a man who has at the beginning of the film he breaks up with his partner, and then so as society dictates, he then has to go to the hotel in the countryside where everybody there is single, and he has to try to find a new partner. He's got 45 days to do it in. If he doesn't do it within 45 days, he'll get turned into an animal.
Yep.
In the transformation room.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay though, because he can pick what animal he wants to turn into. And he picks a lobster, hence the title of the film. So if you went into this film wanting to see lobsters, a movie about a lobster, brilliant. That's not what this film is. It features no lobsters. Spoiler, he doesn't get turned into a lobster.
Oh yeah, that's quite a massive spoiler, I suppose.
Yeah. Spoilers. obviously you would have noticed that we spoiled San Andreas.
Yeah,
This one,
have
however, is, I wouldn't say you would enjoy San Andreas significantly less because you knew what happens, because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas this one is a proper film with a proper story. It's neither of those things really. But it is if you are interested in seeing it, then this will ruin it for you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about some of the stuff at the end.
Yeah, go watch it, then come back, and yeah.
And from me, I would definitely repeat the go watch it bit.
I'm not repeating that bit.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. I've been looking forward to this film for most of the year.
Well, you like all these other films as well, don't you?
Well,
not Colin Farrell,
no.
but the director.
The director is Greek. He's Yorgos Lanthimos. I've only seen 2 of his other films, which are his most recent ones. He's actually done quite a few before that, but in 2009, Dogtooth got him some renown, and that's a great film. And then a couple of years ago, he made the far more difficult Alps. And these films have been quite high concept, as The Lobster is. Alps, for instance, is about a group of hospital workers who start up their own company, pretending to be people who've recently died to help the bereavement process. It's an incredibly dark film, even more so than The Lobster, which goes into some quite morose and bleak territory. But this is his first English language film. And the concept, which Alex has said, was enough bait for me. It sounded quite absurd.
Yeah, well, I thought, what a quirky comedy about love. I didn't know the guy's oeuvre. I don't know what kind of movies he's making, and I thought, this will be dark for sure, and very offbeat and strange, but it will ultimately be nice to watch. I will watch it and go, I enjoyed that. And that's not what happened at all. Yeah,
I maybe I should have prepped you a bit on his style and his outlook.
I blame you.
I'm sure you do. In fact, on the day, I was thinking I should have maybe had a word about what to expect with this, but I didn't know what to expect because the trailer was very lively. And there are a lot of funny bits in this film. I think this is one of the funniest films of the year. It's hilarious, especially in the first hour. The stuff at the hotel is nearly all golden in some absurd way. Yeah, the hotel is sort of structured, and there's never the sense of someone might kill you in the hotel. Whereas, as soon as he gets out into the wild, it's much more dangerous. Yeah. One of the things that they do at the hotel is have random sort of fire drills, which are actually calls out to go and hunt, because in the society of the Lobster, there's no way that you can be single. It's totally unacceptable. Yeah. So anyone who chooses to be is outcast, and they have to live in the forest. It seems, or they choose to. Yeah, and they are the loners. And they are... And these sirens go off, and the people at the hotel go out with tranquilizer guns to hunt the loners. And if you manage to catch one, you get another day on your stay, one per loner. And it's not made clear what happens to the tranquilized loners. I think they get taken to the transformation room, and then they get turned into animals, probably not ones of their choice. Yeah, but like a few things in this, that's left ambiguous. But yeah, the first half of the film is chock full of some great dark comic scenes. Some of the other characters, Colin Farrell is the only one really who gets credited with a name. He's David. Some of the others do get names mentioned, but really it's a list of descriptive titles. So you've got Biscuit Woman. John C. Reilly's in there as Lisping Man. Yeah. He's great in this. He hasn't got much to do, but he's quite charming in everything he's given. Yeah, he's great. I'm a big fan of him anyway. Ben Whishaw is a limping man who is quite conniving. Yeah, I guess. He lies, basically. He sees a girl he likes who gets nosebleeds. Yeah, okay. Well, before we say that... Okay. The film puts forth the notion that
well, I mean, it. the film is trying to say that society shouldn't think this way, but does. And one of the things it says is that you can't have a partner, you can't expect to have a meaningful relationship with somebody unless you have something very specific in common, a defining characteristic. So everybody's always trying to find out what their defining characteristic is, and then they're trying to find a partner with a defining characteristic. And Limping Man had a limp, and so did his wife. And then she died, and now he has to find somebody with a limp. But there's nobody there with a limp. Somebody shows up with a limp, and he says, "Oh, it's just a sprained ankle. She'll get better." And so I couldn't possibly be with her. So so then
he sees this nice young Irish woman. I think she was Irish, and she gets nosebleeds. So in order to not fail at what's being asked of him, he starts bashing his face against solid objects to make his nose bleed, so that she will think that they have this in common. And they do get paired up, and couples are segregated from the single people in the hotel, so they have this equally sort of funny setup where they then have to go and spend some time on a yacht together where they're not allowed other people to be around. And if that gets in trouble, they'll be assigned a child to try and enforce the relationship further. So that's, for me, a fun element on the side.
That's a brilliant line from Olivia Colman, who is fantastic in this. She says, "We wish you all the luck, and we hope that you don't start arguing too much. If you do, you will be assigned a child. That usually helps."
Yes. No, I really enjoyed that too. She's really good. There's some daft seminars going on in the hotel of why you should be in a couple, because it's not safe if you're not. An old man sort of potentially chokes to death in scenario form, in play form, and a woman is raped or not raped depending on whether she has a partner. That's the level of comedy we're here with, by the way. That it is very dark at times. I was reminded of some of Chris Morris's Jam and Blue Jam sort of stuff at times with the comedy. It's very sort of glint in the eye, menacing, and sadistic at times. But it is very funny, and a lot of that comes out of the very stilted delivery of dialogue, which is in keeping with his other films, really. A lot of people say very direct statements at each other, and that's funny. Even reading a film in Greek that's being performed that way, reading the subtitles in English. In his previous films, those scenes are funny because of the words being said, and that very much follows on here. Yeah,
everybody speaks in very full sentences.
Yeah, very sort of direct statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of an example right now, but it makes up a lot of it. And Colin Farrell put on a lot of weight for this film. He's quite a schlubby, sort of sad sack. He's a very downbeat character.
No one's cool in the film, are they?
No one is cool. If anyone is cool, it's Ben Whishaw, who's also a dick. He goes there with his dog, who's also his brother, who previously failed. And that turns out to be actually a pivotal part of the film.
His poor dog was kicked to death.
Yeah, there's a heartless woman there who's played by Angeliki Papulia, who was in Dogtooth and the Alps.
Yeah, so her defining characteristic is that she is completely heartless.
Yeah.
So, like Ben Whishaw pretended to have nosebleeds in order to put forth that he had a defining characteristic with a young woman who gets nosebleeds, he pretends to be entirely heartless to be with this other woman. And he proves that by allowing her to choke to death on an olive.
But that turns out to be fake.
Yeah, but it was a test by her. So she's like, I think we might be able to be together.
Yeah.
So they then start a relationship based on heartlessness. Then, in order to test him further... Yeah, she kicks his dog to death. His dog being his brother.
Yeah.
And then says, it's fine, isn't it? And he then pretends that it is, but starts crying, so she finds him out.
Yeah, which leads us kind of into the second half of the film.
Yeah, that's where the film really turned for me.
I think that's going to be the point for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is dark, but funny, and it had funny lines in it. There's a bit where they have to practice shooting tranquilizer darts, and there's brilliant lines like, "It's no coincidence that the targets are shaped like single people."
Yes, I think that's a brilliant line.
The first hour I actually did enjoy, and I was thinking, this is so bizarre, but I like it. It's nice. And then, from the moment his dog gets kicked to death, and then he then runs away from the hotel.
Yeah.
And then he becomes a loner out, and the film becomes so much more menacing and threatening, and I disliked it.
I know you did. The loners...
I'm going to change battery.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine.
So, pause. Okay.
So yeah.
Sorry
loners.
about the batteries. I think what I need to do is stop buying
Wilkinson's batteries.
the cheapest batteries available. These batteries are 6 for about 40p.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they're not lasting.
They're probably filled with milk.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway,
Yeah.
After that.
This is the second half of the movie where we are given more information on the loners in the forest, and they're led by Leah Seydoux. She's presently also in Spectre as the sort of lead Bond girl. Very different role. And I recognise her most prominently from Blue is the Warmest Colour, which is wonderful, and 3 hours, and 3
hours.
Yeah, it's 3 hours. Anyway, that's very good, and it's available to watch in many places. But yeah, here she's the loner leader. And Colin Farrell's David sort of becomes one of them, and you kind of expect them to be a bit more sensible, a bit more rational, some sanity to be there, because everything else has been chaos with these crazy ideas. Yeah. But in fact, almost the opposite is true. There's as much like specific rules and dogma and sort of ethoses within the loners as there is at the hotel.
Yeah, it's the flip side of the coin, isn't it? Yeah,
very much so.
It's not the rational side of society.
Yeah, it's as dangerous. Whereas previously, Colin Farrell's David was under threat from not meeting someone. Here, if he does, the consequences sound even more horrific. There's some sort of mutilating of lips and a suggestion that the genitals might be mutilated as well in the dialogue. But wouldn't you know it, he then meets Rachel Weisz's character, and they have this immediate chemistry between them. And she shares a trait of his, which is being short-sighted.
Oh, yeah.
Which, even at the beginning, when his wife tells him that she's met someone else, the only thing he asks is he short-sighted?
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that at the time.
Yeah.
Because actually I thought, so maybe he feels bad about being short-sighted, and he's like, she went with someone who's not short-sighted. But now I get that.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. Okay.
So he joins them, and the movie takes on... I mean, it has quite a dark element to it, as Alex has said, but it becomes more so, and there's more classical music and more slow-motion shots, which are very reminiscent of stuff von Trier did with Antichrist and Melancholia. They take trips into the city where they pose as being couples, and some of that's quite funny.
Yeah.
And David and Rachel Weisz's character try and hide the fact that they're becoming a couple.
Yeah, they establish a secret language, don't they?
A hilarious secret language of sort of fists and moving arms and lying down and waving your legs.
Yeah.
Which is quite fun.
And it's brilliant because everybody else, they're in a large group of people, everyone can see exactly what they're doing, and they're just clearly communicating with each other.
In a weird, waggly, silent way.
Yeah, they're all just...
Everyone's just like, this is probably fine. Which is, funny in itself. But
it's not like the second half is devoid of humour.
No.
It is, in a way, as funny as the first half. But...
It's more menacing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's it. It's more menacing. It's crueler.
It's also difficult to tell where you are in the story. I'll preface this by saying I like this about it in retrospect, because so often I watch a film and I kind of, I'm always in the moment in a film. I try not to think ahead or guess what's going to happen, but you always kind of are aware of how far through a film you are.
Yeah.
With The Lobster, that doesn't exist.
No, it could have ended at any moment, or it could have gone on for another hour.
When we got to he was into the forest, I thought, okay, this is probably start of the third act now. But no, you're halfway.
Yeah.
So you've got a long way to go, because that's about an hour in, and it is a 2-hour film. And it's difficult to predict the shape of the film whilst you're watching it. Under the Skin had this last year brilliantly. I just didn't know where it was going. The Lobster does have that, but it's more of a struggle because it does slow down a bit. The comedy at the hotel is easier, so it goes by quicker, and so it's pacier, even though everything is fairly constricted and precise in the film. The first half does feel quicker than the second, because you just don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like the first half.
First half, I was like, this is 5 stars. Where am I going to put this in my end of year best films list?
Yeah.
That slackened a lot in the second half. I still like the second half, but it's certainly more difficult to deal with, especially where this film ends up.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Which is quite brutal.
So we are now going to tell you the ending of the film. If you're thinking, oh, this film sounds intriguing, maybe I will watch it. We're about to ruin it, so turn off now and come back later.
But do come back.
But yeah, do come back. So I liked the film for the first hour, and then it went to the woods, and I didn't like it as much, but it was still had a little something. And then it started to really slow down, and I was less intrigued. And then the final 20 minutes happen. So it's a French lady who's the leader of the loners, takes Rachel Weisz, or she realizes that they're having a relationship, and this is so taboo within her society that she has made in the woods, that she takes Rachel Weisz out to go get laser surgery so that she'll no longer be short-sighted, and this will ruin her defining characteristic that she has with Colin Farrell, David, and then their relationship will start to fall apart. Oh no, it's much worse than that. She takes her to a doctor who then blinds her with lasers, and she's blind forever. And you're thinking, oh, is she just blind for a few hours till she recovers from the surgery? No, she's just blind. Oh God, it's horrific. Yeah,
and then from there you've got David trying to be as in love with her as he was, and he's clearly struggling with it a bit.
Yeah, but not because living in the woods and on the run is difficult when you're trying to do that with a blind person. Not because of that reason at all. Just literally that they've lost their defining characteristic seems to be his only real issue with it.
I think that's a large part of it. I don't think that's the only thing. But he comes up with the solution, he thinks. And I thought at this point, I know where this is going, and it's going to have a somewhat charming ending, given that it had set up this strange fact that you can turn people into animals in the film. I thought, that's going to actually have some worth now, because it's kind of faded out of the story.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to turn himself into a guide dog, and then he would have they would be perfectly suited and functioning together. Okay, they wouldn't have some elements of their relationship, but they would be a unit.
Yeah.
I thought that's really nice, actually. I was wrong.
You were wrong. Yeah, they're sitting in a restaurant. They've just run away. They're drinking water. Everything's fine. Then he asks for a knife and fork. But not a butter knife. A steak knife, please. What's he do with a steak knife, Pete?
Oh, well, he goes into the bathroom with it and stands there with paper towel balled into his mouth and just puts it up against his eyes to stab his eyes out so that he can be the same as her again.
Yeah.
And whether he does or not, you don't know,
yeah.
because the final shot of the film cuts back to Rachel Weisz sat waiting for him for quite a while. That last shot's about a minute or two long.
Yeah.
And then it's just cut to black in credits, and the audience kind of goes like that. There was a big collective sigh at the end of the film. So yeah, I can totally understand why I think a lot of people are going to feel quite dismayed by this film. I think it's been sold as a quirky comedy, which in a respect it is, but I think it's important to know something about Lanthimos and his tone and the kind of parables that he makes.
Well, what's he trying to say here? Because this is obviously an art film. It's got a point to it. You know, this is not San Andreas. With what were the themes of San Andreas? Destruction and
put your family together, even if it's not meant to be.
Rescuing people from
if you like them.
Abandoning your civic duties and then going to rescue your family, you selfish prick. But you don't expect that from San Andreas. But obviously, the Lobster is trying to say something. It's a piece of art. I don't really get what it's trying to say. I kind of do, but
I've got some ideas about it. I think it's not saying one particular thing, but it's making comments and starting a conversation about elements of society that we have to do with the fetishization of the couple. That it's one of the things that you're supposed to do in life, is get married, own a house, have kids, things like this. It's focusing on the having a partner for life part of that, and how much pressure there is to fulfill that for some people. To the extent that they will forego some things, or go into situations that they're not suited to be in because you're supposed to. You hear about people who settle for someone or are with someone because the alternative is being lonely. And I think the one characteristic thing isn't a true thing in life, but I think in the film it's an extension of that anxiety that you might never be with someone, so you have to be with someone. So I think it's taking that apart, and the idea of celibacy not being something that we're comfortable with as a society. I know one or two people who are celibate, and they're constantly asked what's wrong, or are you in the closet or something. People don't really accept that that's a valid life choice, and I think part of what the Lobster's doing is talking about that, and why we feel that that's unacceptable. I also think it's a bit about extremism, which I covered a little bit in my review, because there's no middle ground in the world of the Lobster.
LostHighwayHotel.com.
Yes. You've got the hotel, we'll call one side the hotel side and one side the forest side. The hotel side are the ones who want everyone to be in couples all of the time, and the loners don't want couples at all. There's no middle area for David and Rachel Weisz to escape to. So it's one extreme or the other, and both potentially lead to disaster. And why at the end does he feel compelled to put a knife to his eyes? Is that selfish of him, or is that selfless? I don't really know. It's a difficult question, but why has he put himself in that position when...
It's misguided.
Certainly misguided, but you would think there should be a reasonable middle ground, and I think a lot of what the film is talking about as well is the idea of a society or people who want one thing only, and the reduction of choice. I think a key thing in it is that there is no middle ground, and that is exemplified in two other points in the film, if you don't mind me.
No, go on.
One is they ask him his shoe size when he arrives, which he says is 44.5, which I assume is an Irish foot measurement thing.
Set in Ireland?
It's set in, it's filmed in Ireland. I'm pretty sure it's set in it. There's quite a few Irish characters in there. It's quite a mixed cast of nationalities, actually. But he says he's 44 and a half, and he can't have size 44 and a half shoes.
Yeah, it's
he
either
has to
44
have 44 or 45.
45.
There is no middle choice. And also, near that scene, there's when a very fun scene where he's filling out sort of a survey with an employee, being asked questions, and one of them is sexual preference, which is a big part of the film. I was interested to see whether it would broach, because it looked like it was directly heterosexual concern in the movie, and I thought, it's probably a big slip of the movie if it hasn't acknowledged other gender choices. But it does in this scene, because he admits to having a homosexual encounter in college, but he can't select bisexual because it's too complicated. It's not it's not within the remit. It's a middle ground. There's too many choices involved, and I think part of The Lobster is an elaborate look at the way society or elements of society try to reduce the amount of choice that you have.
Yeah.
Be it
Everybody wants to put you in a box.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to say
Categorise
you are
you.
this type of person.
Yeah, and because of that, you get people who are fixated with, I can only be with this person because they have
this one thing in common, like me. Yeah.
So I think it's a warning, the whole thing. It feels to me a bit like a Margaret Atwood story or a George Orwell story if they were both on drugs and surrounded by animals. The second hour did sour it a little bit for me, just because it's more difficult. It's not a feel-good film by any means.
Definitely not.
But I would still give it 4 lobsters out of 5.
4 lobsters out of 5.
4, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn on it really, because although I can recognise it as being quite a good piece of art,
It's beautiful to look at.
it's beautifully shot, beautifully acted, beautifully written. The pacing is good for the first hour. It's a bit off after that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I didn't particularly remember the score at all. Or
There's lots of
sound
classical
design,
music which works for it.
Actually, no, I'm thinking about it. There's quite a few slow motion sequences that are very nice. It's all very well done, very well put together. I'm sure the director is supremely happy with what he's done. I'm sure it's exactly what he wanted. But I thought it was a fucking nightmare. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Because I was enjoying it to begin with. The first hour was great, and then it went a bit downhill, and then it got a bit wishy-washy and a bit dull almost. And then those last 20 minutes happen, and you just think, oh, Jesus Christ, why can't I just see people be happy? What the fuck? Yeah, and maybe, I'm past my trying to appreciate film as art kind of days, and I'm not really so into it anymore. And also, I got married 3 months ago, and I was there with Pete and my wife, and we we don't really want to watch film about how people are only together for these stupid reasons in society. It was just awful to us both. We both hated it supremely. It was just the worst thing ever. So in a way, I want to give it a 4, because it's a good piece of art, and it definitely does everything it set out to do very well. And really, that's my real score for it, is a 4. But don't go see this film. It's a 1. It's fucking awful. I hate it.
Wow.
Really just made me feel bad. I've been thinking about it for the last 2 days, and I don't think about shit films for a couple of days after I watch them. I just immediately forget them. And this one really stuck with me. So it must be good, right? But I hated it, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone go see it. It'll just upset you.
I can totally understand that. I knew people who had the exact same reaction to Under the Skin last year. I know people who absolutely fucking loathe that film. I think it's an absolute masterpiece, and then probably the best film made in 15 years. But it has the same effect, and it has the same quite maudlin tone to it. And it has things in it that are very difficult. So, and I don't mean that to sound patronising. There are some films, some art films that I'm just like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying this, and I don't like that the sole intent of this film is to make me feel miserable. There are plenty of those. I don't think this fits into that category, personally, but I can understand why for a lot of people it will. So I think it's a recommendation, but with a massive caveat that know what you're getting yourself into, because if you think you're getting a Wes Anderson style film, you're in for a fucking shock.
Yeah.
If you've seen Nymphomaniac, all of it, you might have a better idea of what they were talking about. First half massively enjoyable, second half really tough.
Yeah. To me, it's a massive don't go see this film under any circumstances, but with the caveat, if you like really dark art house films, then it might be worth a look.
Well, there you go. We've come to the same.
Yeah, we're on the same
different
conclusion.
spectrums.
Yeah, and we understand each other's point of view. And
excellent.
That's nice.
Yes, we've got a middle ground of sorts.
Yeah, something the film doesn't have.
No,
the film puts forward the idea that there is no middle ground and people are very secular. And
but isn't it hilarious when Colin Farrell hits a child?
He kicks a little girl. And then says, don't be sad, you should thank me, now you'll have a limp like your dad.
Yes. Anyway, yeah.
There's lots of funny bits in it, actually.
Yeah.
Which makes me more angry at it, because it could have been a nice... What a jaunty Wes Anderson-ish type of film it could have been.
It's a trap, basically. The Lobster is a trap.
It is. Yeah, it lured me in with its quirky offbeatness.
Yeah, the way Audition is a trap. There are certain films that are built with a plan in mind to take the audience on a journey. It's just that the journey might not be to the destination that you wanted.
No.
This is absolutely one of those. Enter at your own risk.
Definitely. Okay, well, there we go. That'll do. That's the end. That's episode 3, take 2. Which, just episode 3 as far as you're concerned, audience members.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for listening on the YouTube channel, which you know because you're on the YouTube channel, because that's the only place I intend to put this.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, goodbye. Thanks for doing this with me, Pete.
That's fine.
Appreciate it again. Okay, bye everybody.